This week, we are going to be working with HTML5 forms. So there are some pages in your book that you're going to read, and then you're going to go through the lecture demo, which includes a lot more detailed information. I actually put a video at the top here that explains kind of how forms work. And then as we go through here, you'll see the different form elements. And I have made these all interactive. Okay, so you'll be able to kind of click around, see how they work. We go through the form tag and the attributes that you will find in the form tag. Then we talk about how elements are grouped in a form. Then we go through probably the most widely used tag, most popular is the input tag. The type attribute is used to change the type of tag, and you can see all of the different types available through input. Okay, so the majority of the tags that you see in an HTML form are going to be input tags. Okay, and so type is an attribute that tells it what type of tag. And then there are some additional attributes you can use that affect the size and whether they have to enter data in it or not. It can affect values that you enter, okay? And that's what all of these attributes are for. Okay, so the maximum length, whether it's required, if you can select multiple things from a drop-down list, if there's a minimum or a maximum value, if it's numeric data. If it's numeric data and you want it to increment maybe by 5 or by 10, you can specify a step. So there's all sorts of things that you can do to customize your form. Okay, so we go through quite a few of these. We go through text fields, and you can see these are all interactive, and I have done a little styling just so you can kind of see that styling is used. This is an inline style, but you could also do an internal style sheet or an external style sheet. Okay, here's password, and you can see that if you have a password type, it does not display what you are typing. Radio buttons, what those look like. Check boxes. We get into the newer HTML5 types, which are super cool. So we've got number, and you can see we have a little spin box here. We have an email type, URL. One of my favorites is color, which I think is so super cool that you can pick color this way. There are dates, and then there are ranges where you have a slider. Okay, so you will learn all these different types of elements that you can put in your forms. We also cover a new type of list. And I know you guys are used to like an open list box where there's a scroll bar and it shows you some of the options you can pick from. And you're used to drop-down lists where you click the arrow and you see a list of choices. A data list is a new type of list. Okay? And it's actually used with an input tag where you specify the name of the list. Okay? And then below that, you use the data list tag. And you'll notice that the ID is set to the list name. Okay, so that's how they're matching it up. And then when you kind of hover, you can click and you can get the drop-down list. So a data list is a special type of list used with an input tag. Text area tags are not input tags. They are text area where you give it the number of rows and columns, and it creates a box. And these are typically used for comments and descriptions. Then we also have select tags, and this is where you get either your drop-down list or an open list box. Okay? These are very widely used. The data list is much newer. So most forms that you see that have drop-down lists are going to be this type. Okay, so you have a select tag and then opening and closing, and in between you have options. And this is what you see in the actual list itself. If you want them to be able to select more than one, you have to use the size attribute. Actually, I lied. You have to use the multiple attribute. The size attribute creates an open list box. And I had one of those up at the top. So let me show you quick what that looks like. This is an open list box. So that's created with the size attribute. And this is the drop-down list. So they're both created with the select tag. The difference is this one has a size attribute and this one does not. We'll go back to that spot. Okay, so selection tags, we also go through the different attributes you can have for that. I've got another example. On your form, if you press tab and it's not tabbing in the correct order, you can actually control the order that it tabs using tab index. Okay, because in a form, it should go in a logical order, right? It shouldn't start on last name and jump to zip code and jump to first name. I mean, it should go in the logical order. Okay? And if that doesn't happen, use tab index to fix it. As far as form validation goes, you can use some regular expressions, very simple ones, like you can have it look for numbers 0 through 9. And then if you wanted 3 numbers, you'd have to put in curly braces that it would be 3, or if you require 10 numbers in curly braces, you put 10. You can do text validation, lowercase or uppercase. And again, if it's multiple letters, you have to tell it how many. Okay, and so there's lots and lots of examples that you can look at. I included a link here. And what you are going to be working on this week is we are going to create a form in the textbook assignment. And so you are going to be downloading HTML file that I'm giving you and a graphic. And then you have to add the form. So this is going to be kind of tedious, and I'm sorry. But the good news is once you get this all added, then for your lab assignment, you are going to be able to copy and paste and then make adjustments. So this is going to be some work, but after you get all of this in, then you'll have kind of a foundation for your forms and you will be able to copy and paste to create additional forms. Okay, so this all has to be keyed in. And typically forms are submitted to a processing script. So I have a script that you can submit to. And what the script does is it basically takes the data that you entered and displays it back. Okay, so make sure you enter this action correctly because when you submit, it's going to go to this script that will display the data back. So it's going to display the name value pair. So that it'll display the name of the element and the value that you entered. So if you look in our input tags, we have name, okay, and we have an ID. The ID and the name are typically the same. The IDs are used by JavaScript and client-side scripting languages to validate. And name is usually used by a server-side script. So I'm having you include both. When you submit, you're going to see the name, the value for name, and the value that you enter. Okay, and then you should be able to view the form offline. And what's interesting if you view offline in multiple browsers is that they do not display the date in the same format. Okay, you'll notice a slight variance in how things are displayed. Make sure that your form has all 3 sections. What I've noticed in this assignment is people get interrupted when they are typing in their form and they skip sections. I will notice that and I will deduct points and you'll end up having to fix it. So make sure that you have all the sections in your form. Then you are going to take that page, make sure it's saved, and you're going to save it under a different name. You're going to save it as mail to customer form. And then you're just going to change the form tag to a mail to tag. That's the only change you're going to make. Okay. And then you can test that. And this is a summary of what you need to turn in. After you finish that, you're going to work on your lab assignment. And the lab assignment is creating your own form. And so here are the different requirements. Okay, and then once you're done, you are going to link the 2 forms, the customer form and the mail to form in the textbook assignment section. You're going to link your form in the lab assignment section and transfer everything to the web. I do have an example of a form for you guys. And this is just my example. Yours can look completely different. I just kind of liked mine in these boxes. And so if you look at my source code, I did an internal style sheet just so you can kind of see what I did. I did use Flexbox on this, which means it is going to be responsive, right? So let me get rid of all this junk in the background. Okay, you can see that, you know, depending on the size, it adjusts, which is exactly what I wanted to do. Okay, and if I submit without filling anything in, if something is required, I am going to get this little notification because I said this was required. Okay, and you'll notice that if you don't fill out the email correctly, it detects that. Now, it doesn't check to see if it's a valid email. It's just checking to make sure the @ sign is there, that a certain number of characters are before it, a certain number of characters are after, that you have a period in there. So it's just kind of basic formatting. But this is the script that it's submitting to. So you can see that it is displaying those name value pairs. And the only ones that are filled in were the required ones. And if I went back and filled in more, okay, then you'd actually see more things when you submit. Okay, now there's a lot more filled in. Okay, so that is the assignment. And once you are done with the textbook assignment, submit done to the Dropbox. Once you are done with the lab assignment, you're going to submit done for that. And then you are going to share your form with the class. Because the forms are kind of fun and everybody's is unique and different. You are going to post a link to your form. Okay, and then you are going to explain who the audience is, what the purpose is, and how you decided on the design and layout. So I'm going to go ahead and add an example here. Be a student preference form. Okay, and you need to give your classmates a link. So here's the form. I'm going to click up here. That'll highlight it and I can press Control and the letter C. I can come back in here and I can hit this link. and do Control and the letter V as in Victor. A little check here and create the link. Okay, that will allow people to see it. And then copy these. Who is the audience? Students? People interested taking classes. Could be adult interest learners. They don't have to be traditional students. What is the purpose? Basically to find out date, the times, but a lot of purposes here. Okay. The days. Potential. Actually, we'll say learners. How did you decide on the design and layout? So I did a Flexbox layout. Okay, so I did the responsive Flexbox layout. It actually worked really well for how I wanted to group the different categories of data. And because we're up north, I kind of put, a little woodsy scene and kind of went with those woodsy colors. All right, and I think that pretty much thoroughly explains it as best as I can. So I'm going to post. Okay, and then once you post, you are going to look at your classmates and you're going to reply to 2 postings indicating what you liked about the form. And if you come in here and nobody has posted, feel free to post my example. Okay, so that is what we have going on for this week. If you get a chance, if you have not already done the test of everyday reasoning, please do that. This class assesses critical thinking. And normally, or in the past, I picked an assignment and assessed critical thinking on the assignment, pretty much without students realizing it was happening. And this is a lot better because you guys are aware of it. You're actually going in and taking the test. You get to see the results and I see the results. And what's even better is for critical thinking, there's like 7 different categories. And I'll look for an area that CIT students are weak in, and I make adjustments to my course to help you in that learning area. So we actually do use the information on the test. Once you complete it, you come into the Dropbox, submit done, and you get 20 points extra credit. So great deal for you guys too. If you have any questions about what we're working on, please let me know and have an awesome week.